Hello, friends. This is Karl from the Fellowship League. Welcome to Examining Life with Karl. Humble, humble, humble. You see, humility is such a resisted value, but it is one of the most significant value of a human being. With or without humility, your life may be placed in jeopardy or may be placed in admiration. Max Ehrmann wrote these great words in his famous Desiderata. He said, "If you compare yourself with others, you may become vain and bitter, for always there will be greater and lesser persons than yourself. Enjoy your achievements as well as your plans. Keep interested in your own career. However humble, it is the real possession in the real changing fortunes of time." Dr. John Dixon, one of my favorite Christian historians, studied this topic of humility. And he wrote a book entitled Humilitas. And what an amazing achievement for a historian to research and write a book on such a value that is easily humiliated and despised by many. According to Dr. Dixon, in his book Humilitas, he said, "Humility is the noble choice to forego your status, deploy your resources, or use your influence for the good of others before yourself." You see, humility is such a very it's being looked down upon by so many people, and it is also one of the most challenging things that a human being can achieve. Even I myself have uh, have struggles with humility, and there are times wherein I take pride in myself, especially when people correct me, when I get corrected. There are times that happens. But then John Dixon emphasized on the reality of the lostness of humility. He wrote about the crisis of humility in his time. In this time. He said these words. Same book, Humilitas. He said, "What we suffer from today is humility in the wrong place. Modesty has moved from the organ of ambition. Modesty has settled upon the organ of conviction, where it was never meant to be. A man was meant to be doubtful about himself, but undoubting about the truth. This has been exactly reversed. We are on the road to producing a race of men too mentally modest to believe in the multiplication table 5." See, John Dixon uh, really emphasized more on the value of humility. And one of his messages, which he delivered in at the WCA summit on a Sunday, he told the story of Sir Edmund Hillary and his beautiful humility. This is to rather reiterate on the importance of humility for us human beings. And this is an example of one of the guys who have reached one of the greatest achievements in history. Imagine the humility of Sir Edmund Hillary, born in 1919, died in 2008. He was one of the first two men, together with his companion mountaineer Tenzing Norgay, who conquered Mount Everest in 1953. Mount Everest. Mount Everest. From that time, he became famous until his death for his devotion to the people of Nepal in exchange for the things they have given to him. Because the people of Nepal helped him in his journey towards the peak of Mount Everest. So in exchange, he devoted his life to them. He built orphanages, he built hospitals, and even spread his own influence all around the world. One time, later in his life, he was in the Himalayas, and some people saw him and wanted to take a picture with the great Edmund Hillary. They gathered around him for a photo taking, and then they decided to give him an ice pick for a good photo. And then after a while, another tourist climber, went by and he did not recognize Sir Hillary. So what he did, he approached him and said, "Excuse me, that is not how you hold an ice pick. Let me show you." See, quite interestingly, the great Sir Edmund Hillary simply thanked the man. He thanked him and went on with the photo. Such a beautiful projection of humility that was. His simplicity diminished his greatness, and yet his greatness is enhanced. I am undeniably amazed by such humility, but nothing can compete with the supreme humility of God, particularly the God in the flesh, who is Jesus Christ. See, Jesus Christ is the embodiment of humility. It was Jesus who said these humble words: "It is not this way among you, but whoever wishes to become great among you shall be your servant, and whoever wishes to be first among you shall be your slave. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many." See, just like Sir Edmund Hillary, who built orphanages, who built hospitals in Nepal, and even spread his own influence around the world, Jesus Christ did something greater. He did not only serve humanity, but he served us. He gave to us himself. It was also Jesus who washed the feet of his disciples, which was one of the lowest actions he did in cultural standards. No human being can do what he did. No human being can do what he had shown to his pupils. God in the flesh had washed his disciples' feet. According to John 13, verse 12 to 17, when he had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and returned to his place. "Do you understand what I have done for you?" he asked them. "You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am. Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. Very truly I tell you, no servant is greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them." We should be reminded of Jesus' humility. It is the kind of humility that washed the feet of his disciples, which became an example for them to do to others. It is the kind of humility that healed a lot of people in his time. It is the kind of humility that made us see its significance in life. It is the kind of humility that shaped the culture for the rest of time. It is also the kind of humility that saved us from bondage by his sacrifice. Dr. John Dixon said that a humility, quote unquote, humility revolution took place in the first century by a teacher in Nazareth. Because humility during ancient history before the first century, before Christ, is characterized by the love of honor, the seeking of honor. It was at that time in the first century when that culture changed in the Western world and to the whole world eventually. The most believable person in the world is the person you know has your best interest in their heart. That person is person centered. See, humility is beautiful considering the life of Sir Edmund Hillary. Humility is common sense because what we don't and can't do far exceeds what we do know and can do. Humility inspires because it is true greatness despite of its humiliation. And it is the key to life, love, and leadership. That is the kind of humility that Jesus Christ himself had shown to us. And we ought to follow him as we continue the journey. He served the undeserving. You see, the ultimate humility that Jesus has shown us is his sacrifice. The suffering of this time is like crucifixion. It brings agony, deep hurts, deep anxiety, deep discouragement, deep sorrow, deep struggles. The heavy burdens and hardships we face is similar to how the Lord suffered. Dr. Ravi Zacharias wrote an article entitled "The Scandal of the Cross." In the last part of his article, he wrote these words: "Does that not give us pause in this season now before us? Think of it: humiliation and agony. This was the path Jesus chose with which to reach out for you and me. You see, this thing we call sin, but which we so tragically minimize, breaks the grandeur for which we were created. It brings indignity to our essence and pain to our existence. It separates us from God. On the way to the cross, 2,000 years ago, Jesus took the ultimate indignity and the ultimate pain to bring us back to the dignity of our relationship with God and the healing of our souls. Will you remember that this was done for you and receive his gift? You will then discover that it is sin that is foolishness. Ravi went on to say, our greatest weakness is not an enemy from without, but an enemy from within. It is our own weak wills that cause us to stumble. But Jesus Christ frees us from the foolishness of sin and the weakness of ourselves. This is the very reason the Apostle Paul went on to say that he preached Jesus Christ as one crucified, which was both the power of God and the wisdom of God. Come to the cross in these days, given for our contemplation, and find out his power and his wisdom. See, one of my closest friends once said, after delivering his message on on humility, on the humility of Jesus, he said, Jesus is deserving to be served because he served the undeserving. And he did truly. So if you're in your quiet time, dear viewers, let us ponder and reflect on the kind of humility that Jesus had shown. And doing this, we will achieve one of the greatest ways to live an examined life. God bless. Thank you.